Hey, everybody. Welcome to Double Overtime with Monty and John. There's so much to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about.
What happened yesterday in double overtime in basketball?
In double overtime?
Mm-hmm.
Which sport?
In basketball. Listen.
No, I'm sorry, but I mean like NCAA or...
Ay, Dios mío.
Well,
Dios mío. The biggest injury happened in the second overtime of the Blazers game. Are we up to date?
Yeah, we're up to date.
Okay, let's talk about that.
All right, perfect. Well, there was a tragic injury where, man, it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch. What, did he break his...
He broke two different parts of his left lower leg, his tibula and fibula.
Okay.
Both of them.
Both of them. Oof.
Both of them.
Well, you could immediately see that they were... I mean, everything was destroyed in that poor man's leg.
Yes. Yusuf Nurkic.
Nurkic, yeah. He just went up, came down, and woof, that coming down was rough. Now, it's strange because it didn't look like it was anything crazy. It's not like he did a ridiculous jump that injured him. He just went up, came down, and that leg shattered.
Kind of a freak accident.
Yeah, kind of like the same thing that happened to Hayward when he was playing the first game of the season last year, and
So
he
rough.
just went up, came down, and the leg just shattered. And I kind of wonder, why is there more of these accidents in basketball now than there was before,
And it's interesting because you're right. They're obviously putting more emphasis in conditioning and strength and all of that because nowadays you have to be able to be strong and quick. So they're definitely putting more into their bodies than they were before, 100%. But I just think I'm going to guess that it has to do with your balance, with landing off balance and thus the weight. I mean, these are big dudes.
Right.
Still a freak accident, but that's the only thing I can imagine, that it has to do with the balance as to how they land. But you're right. It was such a simple just jump up. It didn't look
bad. It looked like both feet were landing about the same time. Now, it was a little off,
right,
but it didn't look like it would be anything more than he had done prior to that. Like the whole game, he's been jumping up and down. He didn't look like he jumped extremely high. He just went up, tried to put the ball in, came down, boom. Yeah.
It was so rough to not look at it. I was watching the game, so I saw it live, and then I heard my dad yell, and I look up, and his leg it's like an L.
Right.
And I was like, ah! It made me think not only of Hayward, it made me think of Victor Oladipo. Poor Pacers is what they're going through. It made me think of Alex Smith. It made me think of Paul George when he hurt himself.
Right.
There's so many plays where it hurts because it's the worst spot. It's the worst part of a sport are these injuries.
Right.
That it's not like, oh, you sprained your ankle, you're out 2 weeks. It's like the Blazers, what are they going to do?
I mean, they still have two top tier guards.
Right.
So they're gonna still do well. I still didn't think they were going to win a championship because there's still those Golden State Warriors. So they weren't going to go all the way. But, it makes it a lot harder for them, that's for sure.
But the Blazers have had those two guards. They argue they have the best backcourt. Okay. But that's been what they've had for several years now, and they can't seem to advance.
Yeah.
This was like what they might have needed, not to beat the Warriors, but to advance. They can't seem to get past that first round.
It's true.
And I saw Lillard's face, and to me, Lillard was just like, I feel bad for my teammate, but man, this is the end of the Blazers this season. There's no way. There's no way, because they've had that team without him, and they haven't succeeded. And now there's other teams that are stronger, and they were stronger.
Right.
How do you carry on when right now they have home court advantage in the playoffs?
True. Yeah, it's true. Well, that should hopefully help them get over the top. Hopefully the fans will be able to support them enough for them to be able to, overcome this hurdle. But it's quite a hurdle, because you're talking about a big man that was very important to the team, and now he's just gone for the rest of the season, probably part of the next season too, because that's not an
100%.
He's just going to come back from immediately.
100%. And McCollum, CJ, is still injured.
Right. Yeah, he is.
So
but he'll be back by the postseason.
Right. But how I feel like, I'm just wondering, how do the Blazers move forward without coming to the realization and without, being realistic as to what their future holds?
You just got to keep playing. I mean, they're all professionals. You got to hope that maybe some other big man on the team can step into that role and do the best
Cantor?
they can. Yeah, I mean, if that's who you got to work with, maybe
that's what I'm saying.
He's been sitting on the bench a lot, so maybe he's got a little reserve left, so that now that there's been this injury, he can just kind of step in and just keep going, and hopefully he's got the energy because he's been sitting down a lot. So you kind of have to hope for that, but. Look, no one was expecting the Blazers to win the championship anyway. It's just now going to be a rougher playoff situation for them without him. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're currently in 4th place. And if the playoffs were to start today, they would be taking on the Utah Jazz.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean...
The Jazz must be so stoked.
Well, why? Because, I mean, you think this was the only way they were going to get it done? I mean, I think the Jazz they're a good enough team to have beat them even if he was there. Now, this makes it a lot easier for them when it comes down to that situation. So they might be able to, steal a couple in Portland and be able to win maybe in 5 instead of like 6 or 7, So I still think the Jazz was probably going to give them a hard time. But
as
now,
it was.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as hard of a time now for the Jazz.
I'm being harsh with the Blazers. I really am, because you look at other teams like the Celtics last year without Hayward, and they still managed to go on.
Well, they also didn't have Kyrie.
And but that happened like later on, and you're right. Then we have the Pacers, who this year, everybody wrote them off after Oladipo got hurt, and then they're still in it.
But
I guess I'm being extra harsh, but that's because I'm being harsh on the back court, which to me have not been able to prove themselves in important games. Yes, you make it to the playoffs, and then you get to the playoffs and you let me down.
You specifically?
Me specifically. Me, okay? Me, the Clippers fan. You let me down.
All right. Well, I understand that. But look, at least they're going to be in there, and anything can happen in the playoffs.
Right.
Other teams might have injuries from now until then. Like, we don't know the future.
That's true.
Someone could go down on the Jazz. Like they could lose, Mitchell. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but what if they did?
Why did you manifest that?
I'm not manifesting.
Why are you saying that?
I'm just saying what if.
Why you gotta put a name? You could have just said somebody could have got hurt.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just somebody. We'll put it back to somebody.
Somebody.
Just somebody.
Go back. Reverse. No person, no player,
but
just somebody.
Just somebody. Somebody might get injured. And so that could, sway things in the other direction.
That's true.
You really never know until you actually get out there on the court in this playoff scenario. And also, people might move around. They might fall down to number 6. They might move up to 3. I don't think that's possible, but they might. But they could fall down.
Well, Houston is only up by 1 game,
okay.
So they could move up, I guess, if Houston and the Blazers, But if the playoffs did start today, OKC is currently in 8th. They're tied with San Antonio, but they are in the 8th spot. Mm-hmm. They would take on the Warriors.
Right.
Would you say the Warriors sweep at this point? Because OKC is struggling.
They are struggling a lot, but they're still a very good young team. And so I think their youth might actually be enough to give the Warriors some problems. Because when people were talking about the possibility of the Kings taking that number 8 spot, they were like, the youth of the Kings is going to give the Warriors a little problem. But again, the Warriors can shoot threes from the other side of the court. So it's going to be hard to defend that anyway.
Right.
But you got to have good energy to counterbalance the fact that they're going to keep scoring. And the other problem with the Warriors is they actually play defense, which is ridiculous for a team that scores that much to also do it on the other end too.
They're so annoying.
Well, that's not annoying. That's the
they're
game.
So annoying.
That's
I
the
know,
game.
They're just so annoying. They're so annoying.
But either way, if they find a way to shut down either George or Westbrook on a regular basis, because if you let them both go off, then you don't have much of a chance.
Listen, they just lost to the Grizzlies. Paul George had 30 points.
Right.
You can't score. You can't have Paul George have a good game and then you lose to the Grizzlies.
But we've mentioned that many players have had good games and are still losing to bad teams,
Right.
So that's still a possibility. It's the thing that the Thunder don't always play defense, and that's what their problem is.
Okay.
They have to start playing some defense if they expect to win these tough games.
Mm-hmm. Houston would play my Clippers if
Right.
we started today.
Yeah, and luckily for you guys,
We play defense.
Yeah, and
because
they don't.
we can't do anything else.
Well, yeah, and they don't. So that would be perfect for you all,
Yes.
ideally. But the thing is, you have to find a way to not let Harden go off. And you have somebody in Beverly who will just be
all up in his pocket.
He will be a problem.
He will be all up in his pocket.
Till he fouls out or
He's
something.
that. You just mentioned, we have these players that are doing really, really well. The Rockets just did that, where Harden had 61 points and they lost.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
Somewhere around there, yeah.
he can't carry the team. He really can't. And it's so, as a Clippers fan, I obviously like Chris Paul. Man, Chris Paul and his injuries.
Yeah, they're pretty consistent.
How frustrating
Yeah.
is it to be James Harden right now?
Do you really think he cares? Because that's more shine for him. You
don't think he cares?
You know how he is. He could just be alone out there on the court scoring 80 points a night and he's fine.
See, I disagree with you, because then what you're saying is that he doesn't care about a championship. So I completely disagree with you.
I'm not saying he doesn't care about a championship.
Bobby, you can't say that he doesn't care that he doesn't have another player. He can't beat the Warriors by himself. He can't beat.
But he doesn't think that. He doesn't think that he can't beat a team by himself, because if you score like that, you think you can beat them by yourself. So he doesn't, because he's won games without Chris Paul. He won games without, gosh, what's his name? The center. It starts with a C. What's his last? Oh, I can't remember his name right now.
I'm blanking out too. Okay,
yeah. But either way, they were out for a lot of games this year, and he was still winning games by himself. He was like, "Look, don't worry about it, Rockets. I got this. The Warriors ain't nothing. We're gonna come after them with help or not."
Capella. Sorry, I was stupid for looking it up.
Yes, Capella.
Clint Capella.
Right.
Yes.
So he was without both of them for much of the season, and they were still doing well, and he was keeping them, above the number 7 or 8 seed. Like, it wasn't like they fell down far. They stayed basically near the top.
It's just the difference here is that in basketball and in baseball, you have to win more than one game against a team. You have to be better than a team. In football, you could get lucky. You could win one game and you just happen to be lucky that game and you move on. So I feel like James Harden has to know in his heart that he cannot win a Game 7 series against several teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think several
by himself. Yeah,
himself.
It will be rough, but I think in his heart he believes he can do it, because if you see how he plays with a very high level of confidence.
He does.
I don't think I've ever seen a player play with such where it's just he sees a guy in front of him and he's like, "Great,
I don't see
ISO. That's it. Just you and me. There's no other people out here. There's not 8 other men standing on this court. It's just you and me. And if any other defenders get in my way, well, they're getting scored on too." But that's just kind of how he plays. And so I feel like he believes that he can beat any team by himself. Yeah.
Interesting. I would love to ask him one day. Let's tweet him and see if he responds.
We'll tweet.
So that's the Western. Anything else you want to say about the Western side?
No.
What about the East?
It's up for grabs. Anybody can win the East.
Like Miami and Dwayne Wade.
Yes,
what is going on with Dwayne Wade? Like, that guy, I think it's the braids.
I think it's just his last hurrah. He knows he's leaving after this year, so leave it all out there on the court. I mean, what is he holding back for?
But he's like playing at a level, like last year he didn't play this well.
Because he didn't say it was his last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you give that, deadline, and you know that every game is very important until that deadline, he's going to play his butt off every game, because why save anything? He's going to be sitting at home watching his boy LeBron play after this.
He'll be at the games. He wouldn't be at home.
He's not going to be at every game.
Well, maybe not every game, but he'd be at those games.
But he might actually be an analyst or something. They might bring him into the front desk or something.
If his wifey lets him. Because you're claiming his wifey's telling him he's got to retire.
Well, because she wants him still able
Miss
to walk.
Union.
Yeah, she wants him still able to walk in the future. Like,
what? He's doing, I don't know.
But anything could happen. We saw the accident that just recently.
Anything can happen. Not for anyone specific.
But yes, anything could happen at any point in time. So,
you're right.
Her baby's getting older.
Yeah.
The bones ain't what they used to be.
Right.
And so, I mean, especially after seeing what just happened, she might be like, "Look, baby, you better get your butt off the court." Wrap this up as quickly as possible.
Wrap it up. I think it's the braids.
You think the braids are doing it?
I think it's the braids. I think it's
that
the
tightness.
Yeah, like he's just, he's like, my head hurts. I can't think about it. I gotta go play a little bit of basketball. So you think realistically, like if the playoffs started today, they would be taking on the Greek Freak and the Bucks. You think there's a chance? Like, you really do think Miami could?
I don't think any team in the East is for real.
Okay.
I don't believe any of them are. I think any team can be beaten by any other team in the East because the East doesn't have LeBron James anymore. So it's like...
But nobody has LeBron James right now when it comes to the playoffs.
Right. Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that was the problem in the East for a long time. Like, no matter who you were and what your record was,
you couldn't.
LeBron James was still in the mix, you know? I mean, the Raptors fired their head coach who got them to their best record, got them to a #1 seed. But when you get embarrassed by LeBron James, you still lose your job, you know?
I hate that. I hate that coaches get fired when players don't deliver. Because that's the players. I'm sorry, that was DeRozan.
Right. But
not delivering.
But who can you really, you can't fire
Why
players
not? Bench them.
Because you have a fan base. The fan base has fallen in love with these certain people. These jerseys are what people are buying. People aren't buying the same jacket that Luke Walton is wearing out there on the court. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's because it's Luke Walton. But if Greg Popovich is selling me something, I'm going to buy it.
Well, yeah, and everybody in San Antonio will too.
It'll probably be on San Antonio. Pop for president.
Yeah, so, yeah, but no one's buying the suit jackets of these coaches. People are buying the jerseys, though, of these players.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's just super infuriating because it's the players that don't deliver. And
No, I know.
I felt super bad for Dwayne Casey when he got fired from the Raptors because they had the best record.
Yeah, and he was coach of the year.
He was coach of the year and then gets fired.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That's so rough. So you don't believe in the Greek Freak?
No, not at all. He's too young. He needs a little bit more time, and then maybe he can be more dominant, because at the way it is right now, he is a great player, but he's not a great player every night. And you kind of have to have that, as you were saying, like, this is a 7-game series,
right?
And you need to be better than like 2 or 3 nights. You need to be good for like maybe 5 or 6 nights of that series just to make sure your team moves on to the next round. And I don't know if he can deliver that just yet. He's a dominant force, but you know, you got teams like the 76ers who have Embiid, and I think he could at least give him a problem, throughout the series if they're playing each other. So I don't know if he is ready yet for the late playoff games. You know?
Okay. I'm glad you brought up Embiid because he said himself that he is the most unstoppable player in the NBA.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's nice to think that about yourself. And it's good to have confidence.
Thank you. Next.
It's good to have confidence.
So you are confident that that's not accurate?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Right?
Like,
I know.
If it was that way, then the 76ers would have a better record than they do.
That's true.
You know, he's a very good player, especially when he wants to play. But I mean, if you like closed your eyes and then opened them up and we had switched bodies with him and Anthony Davis, it would basically be the same guy. Like, there's not
just
a lot.
One's a lot older.
Well, yeah.
Because we don't really know his age.
Right. We don't.
Right? We don't really know how old he is.
There's some secrets in the age and whatever. You know.
I mean, and he looks a little older.
He does.
He does.
He definitely
you know what
does,
I mean?
You know, and I mean, but whatever. When you're that tall, you might just look older. Like, I always had that issue where everybody thought I was older my whole life because I was taller. They're like, "Oh, what are you, like 14?" I'm like, "I'm 9." They're like, "Oh, okay." So when you're tall,
the exact opposite.
Right. They always thought you were much younger.
Yeah, it still happens.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, how's school going? What, sir? I graduated. What? I get that
They
all
might
the
think
time.
You're in graduate school.
People think I'm in school all the time.
Oh.
I don't understand. I'm like, okay, it's just because I'm short. I gotta wear heels all the time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just the reverse for tall people.
It is.
So the taller you are,
but in basketball, that can't be a thing.
But it kind of still is, though. Like,
no, not in basketball. You put Embiid up next to all these other players. You're like, that guy looks like he's 10 years older than everybody else here.
I mean, that's fair.
You know what I mean? But you're right. Height does add to the age or take away if you're short.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I think if I were to right now take a team from the East, I do think it's going to be the Sixers that come out on top, to be honest with you.
I still think it could still be the Celtics.
You think it could be the Celtics?
Because I don't see any real difference from last year to this year, except for that they're having some issues along the way. But again, once you get to the postseason, things will change, you know?
I just think that the Sixers probably like playing with each other more than the Celtics like playing with each other. You don't think? You think Jimmy Butler's not?
Butler's
you think
a problem.
I agree, but I think it's worse on the Celtics side.
Yeah, I don't. Like, here's the thing. Jimmy Butler, again, hasn't really been put in a situation where he is often winning. And now he's in that situation. Right. And I don't know how that's going to affect him when he gets closer to a chip that he's never really had an opportunity to get to. Like, you know, in his past, when has he had a chance to be close to the championship?
You're right.
Never.
Right.
So now he's kind of a diva. And so I feel like the closer you get, when you get some hiccups, some losses along the way, which is going to happen.
It's more frustrating.
It's going to be more frustration to him. Like if he has a cold night where he scores 12 points and has like 2 rebounds and he's just not doing as well as he could and they lose, you know, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, if Jimmy Butler did this, because he's usually the scapegoat for that team. Now, is he the best player on the team? No, it's supposed to be Embiid, but like Embiid is kind of getting that same LeBron James feel where it's like if they do well, it's Embiid. If they don't do well, it's Jimmy Butler.
You think they do that?
They kind of do that. Yeah, because they'll be like, Jimmy Butler might have been an issue. Like, because they do that a lot. If you notice on ESPN, like anytime something's going bad with the Sixers, they bring up Jimmy Butler. But anytime things are going good,
he doesn't get the credit.
He doesn't get any credit.
Oh, poor guy. They just don't like him.
Yeah.
They just don't like him.
Yeah, he scowls a lot.
It's all right. You know, I also think, I don't think they're going to go far, but the Brooklyn Nets, D'Angelo Russell is like,
they're the most exciting team in the East.
He's so good. Mm-hmm. He left the Lakers and he was like, I'm gonna show you what I could do. I'm gonna show you.
Well, the Lakers shouldn't have sent him off with the idea of you're not a good leader, because now he's like, well, I'm gonna show you that I'm a good player and a good leader, and I'm gonna lead this team to the postseason.
Yeah, it's insane watching him play. I'm like, man, it's a completely different player. Like I would even most improved from last year. To be honest with you, I was so impressed with what he's done. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
Right. Oh, and they're a young team and they're good. Yeah. And with those rumors of Kevin Durant possibly going there, that's going to be a stout team.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
With them, 100%.
Because with him, he could go anywhere on the court. And when you have, you know, people like Allen who can just sit down there in the paint and block everything going up, then he doesn't have to worry about defense as much, and he can worry more on getting the ball and scoring, because there's also another tall person that might get that block. Right. And then he can help out, and then, I mean, you got arms everywhere.
Yeah, I know. So many crazy things happening at the end of this NBA season. We got Devin Booker, who had 59 points, which 2 years ago, around the same time,
he had like 70.
And so they
lost that one too.
They did. And what's so funny is he was on the bench. And then they brought him back in, even though they were losing. He was like, I'm going to get 60. I'm going to go for that 60. And he didn't get it. And we also had Jeremy Lamb from the Hornets, who made that crazy shot against the Raptors.
Right.
Crazy. And ended up winning. Man, the Raptors must have been, it was just one of those shots. It was like the Dwayne Wade shot.
Oh, I know.
It was like
those memes afterwards were amazing. Like you
so
gotta love it. You gotta love every meme that was made after that, because he looked so happy. He's like, I did it.
He couldn't believe it. I mean, what are the chances of making a freak shot? It was a crazy freak shot. You know what I mean? But it was so exciting to see it, despite the fact that, you know, it was the Hornets and
right. Well, I mean, the Hornets are a decent team. Sure. You know, I mean, they have somebody that with Kemba Walker. They're actually talking about him possibly becoming a Laker, because he's a free agent who hasn't said no to the Lakers yet.
I have heard that, yes.
So he's not great on defense, but he can score. I think they need to find some defense for the Lakers, but maybe they'll bring in a coach that has more defensive schemes.
Yeah.
But we'll see, because, again, Luke's gone.
Again, Luke is gone, and I'm surprised he is not gone yet.
Well, because the assistant coaches there aren't very good either. I mean, there's no one to turn over the team to at this point in time. Might as well let him finish it out. You know, they probably are giving him that because of his father more so than him. You know, they're probably like, this is because of who your father is, and we respect your father, and we're going to let you finish the season. But other than that, you know, if he didn't have the father that he has, he probably would have been fired once they didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be asked to leave for sure. But we do have some people, some athletes that are leaving on their own accord. We got some people retiring,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. Now, let's talk about Ichiro Suzuki, who is retiring. How long did we say? 28 years combined.
Correct.
Between Japan and MLB.
And it was nice they let him retire in Japan.
In Japan, which is so cool. But, he's been described as the purest hitter in history.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, he would have beaten Pete Rose's hitting record if he played only here in the States. I mean, his numbers combined
are
much better, but they're not going to pay attention to his numbers in Japan and be like, we'll just add those in.
Just count them in anyway. It's okay. Yeah, between Japan and the MLB, he had 4,367 hits.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention that he did everything. Like, they even let him pitch when he was down in Miami for a few games, and it's just like, goodness, dude, you can literally do everything past the age of 40, which is crazy.
So crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going on a high, nice way out, you know.
And he's definitely a Hall of Famer. I mean, he'll probably be first ballot, maybe even get 100% of the votes. Like, I mean, they've already done unanimous ones now with, Rivera. So I don't see why Ichiro wouldn't get the same, because he was always a nice guy. He was never disrespectful.
He's liked, exactly. Like, so there's no politics surrounding him like there are with a lot of players. We also have another player retiring, Rob Gronkowski from the Pats.
He just couldn't take any more surgeries, I mean, he was like 29-year-old with like a 50-year-old man's body. Like, his body just kept deteriorating. And I don't know if it was because he was so top heavy. I mean, the man had so much muscle from the waist up.
Yeah.
And these tiny legs.
He's probably so mad if you ever heard that. I mean, I'm sure it's not the first time, but you are right. He was almost like a swimmer's body, like that was the V, going down.
Right.
But his agent came out and was like, I wouldn't be surprised if, either Tom Brady calls him halfway through the season and says, hey, yo, I need you. Or if in a year he realizes he misses it. His agent said that.
Well, he's only 29. So, yeah, I could see that too. And he's got, 3 Super Bowl rings. There's really no reason for him to come back because he also has other businesses. Now, it might be just the love of the game that brings him back because, Jason Witten just came back and he had a cush job at Monday Night Football. Yeah. Now, everybody made fun of him and was like, Tony Romo's much better at this than you are.
He's so good.
Yeah, Tony Romo's great.
He predicts the weirdest stuff to happen. He's so good, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah. But again, I could see him maybe coming back like a Jason Witten, maybe a year off, just to let his body heal, because if he goes into another season, his body is just not going to heal.
I just found it very interesting that his agent said that. Like, you don't hear many people say that after somebody announces that they're retiring. So it's almost like he put it out there. Like, he put him on a shelf and was like, maybe that's the plan the whole time, is to just take some time off with maybe making a comeback.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because it's not like the Patriots are going to say no to him if he comes back.
It's true.
They're going to be like, yeah, Rob, yeah, come around back in. There's no way they're going to say no to him. Now, will he come back? That's still up for debate because, again, it's mainly about the body. I mean, you could see him last year. It looked like he had a hard time walking.
There were times when it looked like he was struggling to move from point A to point B.
Right.
But then there were other times when he didn't look like that. So maybe he's
might have been an adrenaline shot.
Maybe. Yeah, he has been injured. He took some time off because of injuries in the past. So maybe it is the body. Maybe he's just like, what else do I do? I've already won 3. I'm cool.
Right. And again, he has outside businesses where he makes money too. Yeah. So,
And I wonder, as an athlete of somebody who's been injured, 29 years old, if he thinks about those freak accidents that happen and he's like, you know what, maybe I should just end on a high note.
Why not? I mean, he seems like a pretty intelligent guy. I mean, he doesn't seem like, one of just those idiots out there, who's just playing football because that's all he knows how to do. Like, he looks like he knows other things and can make money
cares
elsewhere.
About the community, does other things. You're right. It's not like he's going to be sitting at home. He probably has other projects, like you said. And
maybe he might be going into Monday Night Football there. Who knows?
Who knows? Watch, he's going to be on Monday Night Football. We also have Conor McGregor, who has announced his retirement from
I don't believe that
mixed
one.
martial
I don't
arts.
believe that one.
Well, you don't believe that one because it's crazy for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and told Jimmy, yo, I've been talking to UFC about possibly coming back to the octagon in July.
Mm-hmm.
Hours later, and like late Tuesday night Western time,
Mm-hmm.
early Tuesday morning Eastern time, or Monday night Tuesday, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He tweets that he's retiring.
You think he failed a drug test? No, seriously. Who retires that quickly after announcing that they're trying to fight again? You only would do that if you failed the drug test.
Something.
They told you ahead of time. They're like, yeah, man, your pee didn't come back great. You know? And so then he's like, well, instead of that coming out, which is going to be damaging to his image, then you retire, it doesn't get out. And then when you come back later, no one's going to say anything.
And it's funny because Ronda Rousey came out and was like, I don't believe that. I don't think he's really retiring.
No one thinks he's really retiring because first off, to retire as a fighter, you're basically done. There's only very few fighters that stand the test of time after they've retired in any fighting sport, you know, like be it boxing or, you know, UFC. So like your Mike Tysons and Muhammad Ali's are very few and far between, even though there's been a whole lot of boxers. There's very few people that you still remember, like, you know, Oscar De La Hoya. There's just so few. So when you look at it from that perspective, he's a guy who likes to be seen.
Yes.
He likes to be remembered.
100%.
I mean, the man's walking around at the Super Bowl holding his baby. Like, look at me, I'm at the Super Bowl. It's like, you have nothing to do with football. So he loves to be seen and he loves to be an image. And the only way he can be an image is to still be in the limelight as a fighter, because 2 years from now, they're not going to really talk about it. I mean, they barely talk about Floyd Mayweather. And I mean, he didn't quit but like a year or two ago.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So you think maybe this is like a quote unquote publicity stunt?
I think it's a publicity stunt masked by something that happened. Like,
but okay, so there's a reason why this went down, and now he's using it as a publicity stunt, trying to spin it so that he can come back.
Right, because with fighters, you fight like once a year at UFC. So so he probably just needs to go long enough for his pee to clean up. And then he'll be like, oh, I'm coming out of retirement. I found a fight. They're paying me millions. I'm going to fight somebody. Probably gets knocked out, but whatever. You know, that's because he's getting up in age. And so, you know, he's not fighting as well as he used to, but that's not what they're paying him for. Right. They're paying him just to be there.
Right.
And give a good fight.
Right.
So.
Oh, I agree. I think that's more of a publicity stunt than anything. For a moment, I was wondering if Gronkowski was doing it as a publicity stunt as well. But then I was like, what does he want that for? He doesn't need to do that.
No.
It came out of nowhere. It just was not expected.
Plus, Gronk's in a better situation. You know, he's on a team with a GOAT. I mean, really, Tom Brady is easily the greatest of all time. There's no reason to retire unless you just need to.
Right.
And why, as McGregor is only him. You know, he's only fighting with himself. That's it. You know, so if he can't do it due to probably a failed drug test or whatever it might be, you know, it's only him. So, like, it's all on him. Whereas Gronk has a whole team to, you know, kind of hide behind if he needs to. But if he really feels like he doesn't even want to do that anymore, then it's probably a real thing. Whereas Conor, I don't know.
Early on, but what team in the NFL are you expecting to change it up, to kind of surprise us this season? We obviously know the Patriots are going to do well. They still have Tom Brady.
And we assume the Chiefs will, even though they have a lot of issues right now with, you know, their wide receiver who might have, or it looks like he has done some domestic stuff, violence to his child. And then, you know, you also had the running back who has been released due to domestic violence. But they still have Mahomes. And so that's kind of their driving force. So I think they should still be okay. A team that's going to turn it around and be better than they were last year, from the changes that have been made so far, you got to say the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they have so many weapons now. And as long as Baker Mayfield is halfway decent out there on the field, they're going to be winning a lot of games. I mean, you've got now, you know, Odell Beckham on the team. You've got now Kareem Hunt eventually. Chubbs is on the team as another running back. The team is just really good now. And the defense was already pretty solid. I see them as being the team that is going to surprise us, that's going to finally make it to the postseason for the first time in a really
long time.
Yeah.
You might be right about that. I was also thinking possibly the Green Bay Packers can do a little something.
Yeah, but we'll have to see about this new coach.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, that was another one where I know they got rid of the coach, and I wasn't as offended by it as other times that they fired coaches.
Right, he served a lot.
Served a lot of time, and it was just more of a change. So I don't know. I'm secretly rooting for Aaron Rodgers a little bit to at least get to the postseason.
Right. Well, it's better for football because, it's Aaron Rodgers kind of is at that same level of like LeBron James, where they're like, oh, well, you're not in the postseason. Well, what do we talk about? Like that's kind of how it is, and when Aaron Rodgers wasn't in it, they really focused everything on Tom Brady because it's just like, well, where's our other golden child of the NFC? Like they have one of each side, and then the one from the NFC didn't even show up. So then you had to focus all of your attention on the AFC.
Since we're talking about quarterbacks, what's your opinion of Lamar Jackson?
Oh,
from the Ravens.
That's a good question. No, it really is. Like my opinion of him is he's going to do whatever is necessary to win these games. Is he a good quarterback? Not as far as throwing the ball. No,
yeah.
His accuracy is bad.
I could throw like Lamar Jackson throws.
Wow. All right, that's mean.
Have you seen? Give me a football. Somebody give me a football.
There's one right there. There's one right there. Toss it.
let me show you how I can throw before you judge me.
I'm just saying that. He's a professional athlete. Let's give him a little respect.
Sure.
Okay.
Says John. Who's over here manifesting people getting hurt.
Right.
Okay.
But, as far as his ability to avoid a tackler and extend the plays, he's a very good quarterback in that. And that's kind of what you need in today's football because it's kind of hard to win with a quarterback that doesn't move. Like Tom Brady is unique. I mean, even Aaron Rodgers is rolling out of that pocket on a regular basis.
Right.
Like your pocket passers are actually starting to look like dwindle away because it's hard for an offensive line to protect a statue with defenses being stronger and faster than they've ever been.
Right.
So.
Right. You can't just be a big dude now. Like you have to be able to move.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm hoping that Lamar Jackson, I don't know if he'll ever learn to throw because I feel like you've been throwing no, I mean it in the sense that
will you ever learn to throw?
That sounded bad, Lamar. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it. If you're listening, I didn't mean it like that. I meant it in the sense that like he's probably set in stone as to how he throws. He would have to change a lot of his ways and a lot of his style,
much like when Tebow was playing,
right?
And, like he threw an ugly ball, but the ball got there kind of, so.
It just was like spinning in weird ways. Yeah. I'm wondering if he can adjust and maybe, because all he needs, I felt like most of his throws were just short. They were never on target, but it was always short.
And that might be just something with him mentally because he feels like a lot of times if you overthrow it, you're then throwing it into the secondary.
That's true.
And so he would rather it be short and maybe
hit the ground
and it's an incompletion and you can live to fight another day.
Right.
Versus if you throw it too much, you air it out and then you got a safety grabbing it and running the other way. So maybe he was just doing it. Because again, being a rookie, you don't want to make too many rash decisions.
Yes.
Because at the time, little Joey Flacco was just right behind him. You know what I'm saying? So people were waiting for him to mess up and say, all right, Flacco, get back out there and see if you can complete a pass.
Which I was super shocked that Flacco didn't go into that game in the playoffs.
Too.
I was super shocked.
And I kind of think he did that on his own. I think he refused to go in. Because
really?
I think because look, they got rid of him pretty quickly.
No, 100%.
Like they didn't even get close to, free agent talk or anything. They're like, the season's done. You're going elsewhere.
Right.
So I think that was him being a stubborn veteran because, you know, he's always been like, I ain't helping out a rookie. All right. I'm not helping somebody take my job. I'm not helping you. So when you do that and have that kind of attitude, he was probably like, look, I'm not going in to try to save the game because you let this rookie ruin everything.
So you're saying Harbaugh probably went up to him and was like, you want to go in?
I don't think it was at that point. I think it was probably like an understood thing that before
I'm not
the game,
going in.
Yeah, I'm not going in.
You don't want to play me? I'm not going to play.
I'm not going to play. I'm here. If he gets injured, if he's completely knocked out of this game, fine. But if he's able to walk, this is the bed you made, you know.
All right. Well, let's move from football to football.
Okay.
Did that make sense to you?
It did.
Because you didn't know what frijoles was the last time.
Well, I know what sports are.
Football?
I know football.
Football and Cristiano Ronaldo.
Ah, yes. He is an interesting character, isn't he?
He really is.
But a very pretty man.
He's super pretty.
Yeah.
You know, is he going on the decline? What? He's 34.
Yeah.
34, and you know,
to be honest with you, he should be playing in MLS now. He should be out of the Premier stuff, and he needs to, you know, he needs to Beckham it, you know, and humble himself and go over here and play a little bit.
And I'm the mean one.
Yeah, well,
and I'm the mean one here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, look, you're talking about his decline, and I mean, he is.
I just
he's older.
asked it.
He's
I
older.
just asked it.
Yeah.
And you know, I feel like Cristiano, you either really like him or you don't like him. So then you ask somebody, is he on the decline? And if they like him, they're going to give you X, Y, and Z as to why he's not on decline.
Right.
You don't like him, X, Y, Z, why he is. So it's a little tough. Obviously, you know, he left Real Madrid and he went to Juventus. And he had a hat trick, but it wasn't until his 7th match.
Right.
So is he just getting adjusted to it, you think? Or is he kind of like, you know, I've done everything I could. Now I'm here to help this team, but
I think it's just age. I think you can't. That's a very demanding sport.
It is.
You are constantly running.
Literally running like the whole time.
The whole time. You are constantly running.
And everybody's running.
Yeah.
You can't pretend like everybody. You have to be in such good shape. I agree.
No. I mean, only the goalie gets to chill, you know, so.
For a second.
For a second. But everybody else is constantly running. And I think because of that, you know, you have to look at the fact that, you know, there's a lot of wear and tear on those tires. You know, the tread is falling off. And so he'll give you a good game every now and then because he's still an amazing talent and he, you know, he knows what to do.
Right.
So he can give you a hat trick here and there. You expect a hat trick every game. That ain't happening anymore. You know, he ain't 19. So, you know, now this is the Ronaldo you're going to get.
Yeah.
And it might not be every game, but he'll still give you these really good games. And he's selling tickets. I mean, I know 100%. People are coming to see him.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. He's what I'm telling you. Even if you hate him, you want to be able to say you saw Cristiano Ronaldo play. You know, that's what you want to do. He got hurt in his last match. It wasn't a bad one. He hurt his hammy. And they asked him and he was like, I'm not worried about it. But he did leave the game a little early. He was taken out of the game.
Right.
So maybe, like you said, maybe it's age and it's just like a little bit of wear and tear. Yeah. But let's be real. Besides the wear and tear, besides the injury, there are politics surrounding Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, he might not be able to play MLS actually because of some of the stuff that's been going on. He might not be allowed in the States.
Yeah, so
maybe that's why he's holding on to Juventus.
Yeah, maybe he's holding on to Juventus for that reason. But Juventus is not going to come to the U.S. to play because they're afraid that Las Vegas might come and take Cristiano Ronaldo.
Well, I mean, he's still under investigation, even though he has been seen in a private jet coming back from the U.S. being like, hey, I just took my DNA test. Everything's cool. And he went back to Italy. But I just don't know if it's really case closed yet because the case is still open and he's not coming to the States anytime soon. So it seems shaky. I think it's also interesting that the situation didn't come out until he left Real Madrid. So this has been something that's been like almost a decade long. And when he was under the protection of Real Madrid and their possible corruption, he was fine. Now he leaves that team and then all hell breaks loose. And it wasn't as if this wasn't a case, but like, you know, I believe a German website picked it up and found this story of, you know, Ronaldo's, you know,
history and
allegations, and they brought it to light. They even did an interview with the woman who had been kind of kept quiet, rumors because of lawyers from Real Madrid and other people bothering her and stalking her and things of that nature. So when he no longer had those lawyers and teams on his side, they stopped. And then now
the easy way is don't come back to the U.S. for a minute.
Right.
You know, it's really frustrating because, like you said, he's so pretty.
He is a pretty man.
I don't think any lady would say no.
Yeah, I don't.
It's hard. It's just hard to believe that. And like
now, I mean, now maybe there could be other things
that we don't know.
Yeah, he might have been too aggressive.
Okay.
He might have also not done anything and then paid to say that they did. There's rumors that he doesn't like the ladies too.
Right. So there's so much stuff surrounding him.
There's a lot that surrounds him. The surrogates that maybe had his children, the kid that he basically purchased and now is his, you know, we don't know if it's, I mean, we assume it's his kid, but I mean, the kid's very dark. So there's a lot on the plate. There's a lot on the plate. So like, again, his strangeness makes him basically, you know, the Michael Jackson of soccer. You know?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. A lot of stories surrounding him.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if he'll say anything right now.
But that's not Michael Jackson style or the Ronaldo style. So they're not going to say anything about this. They live under the mystery, the fun of the mystery. And if you don't know what's going on, then you can make up your own stories. And they're like, yeah, fine, whatever. That's what I did. But I think they like being extremely eccentric. And that's, I mean, he's got the money to be a strange man.
You know, I guess you're right. You can say nothing and leave it open. And then you can say something and it still doesn't say anything. Like back to football, Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
Robert Kraft apologized for
something apparently he didn't do.
For something. But he said, I'm sorry about this. I let people down, but I didn't do this, and that. Mm-hmm. So I guess
billionaires are weird. You know, like he doesn't want to admit the fact that he was at some seedy strip mall getting, you know, sexual favors delivered to him for money. So he doesn't want to admit that because that's pretty low on the totem pole of things that billionaires should be doing.
Right.
Like he shouldn't be in a strip mall anyway, let alone doing that, you know? Right. So there's a lot of shame in what he has done. And so he's not going to admit what he has done because that's just not how billionaires work. Like the second somebody accuses a billionaire of something, it's like, I didn't do it. And my lawyers say, I didn't do it either. So like, that's how he's going about this. So why even apologize?
Why address it? Why address it then?
Well, because he has to look good maybe in the face of the NFL. And maybe if he kind of admits that he's sorry, they won't release his tape. That's really what he's concerned about.
He is concerned about. Now, do you think that the NFL is going to do their own punishment on Robert Kraft?
They got to do something.
They have to.
Because if they don't do something to him, then players are going to be like, man, we can start going to strip malls.
Listen, this is a different conversation, but like it goes kind of to the domestic violence of the NFL. Do they really do anything?
I mean,
do they? Like, let's be real. So many players, if you have any sort of domestic violence history, even in college days, the NFL should not allow those players. And they still do. So it's like, is there really a punishment or is it a slap on the wrist and it makes us all look stupid?
Now, in the case of violence, I think they slap them on the wrist because in their mind, they're like, this is a very violent sport anyway. So we are basically hiring violent people to do violent things. So there might be a little excess that spills over on top. You know, I think that's how they view it. Not that I say that that's right, but I think that's kind of how they look at violence with these players.
Definitely not okay.
I didn't say it was okay, but
for real?
But I think that's kind of, because, you know, a lot of these guys would probably be in jail if they weren't in the NFL. Like your Ray Lewis's. I mean, he probably killed a man. He didn't go to jail for it.
I mean, possibly.
When an NFL player kicks a man in the head, he probably did it. But he got off and whatever. They allowed him to continue to play and the man won another Super Bowl after doing something terrible. So I feel like they look at violence as something that comes with the job. Sport. Yeah. Now,
that's disgusting.
Right. So like if you heard this with an NBA player, So they ain't gonna stand for that because that's not a violent sport, you know? If it happened in hockey, I think they might even be like, because it's a violent sport. But like, there's certain sports you couldn't get away with that.
So what if, I know that this has happened, but what about like boxers and UFC fighters? That happens and you think it's okay? Or would it be the exact opposite? Because it's like, no, you're already a fighter.
Right. See, that one is a gray area because like when Mike Tyson did it,
right,
they threw his butt in jail.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, so like, I think it's a little different there because you're allowed to get your aggression out in the ring. Whereas like in the NFL, you can't go too far or then you're labeled a dirty player, then you're fined and all kinds of other stuff. Now, I'm not saying that any violence is okay besides, I guess, the violence of work. But I think they feel like these players might not be able to get all that aggression out or whatever they feel. And so they kind of excuse them for more of this behavior because like we're talking about Hunt is only getting an 8-game suspension. That man shouldn't even be playing football ever again. You know, like that's
100%.
That should be what the punishment is.
He should not be on any team.
The punishment is just 8 games. Like, so you lose a little money, but you get your job back. Like, I'm not saying people don't deserve second chances, but that's a very quick second chance. I mean, like we ain't even let the dust settle down and you're like, all right, well, we got a job for you, you know, so it seems strange.
Super strange. The NFL's annoying when it comes to stuff like that because then you have like Colin Kaepernick who doesn't have a job. Right. Yeah. Granted, his talent was not.
He was on the decline.
He was, but still, like
he wasn't hitting people. You know, he was, as far as we know.
As far as we know.
Yeah.
So it's just, I just hate the gray, the politics involved with that kind of stuff in the NFL. I am not a fan.
I understand.
But I'm a fan of you.
Well, you know, I'm a fan of you too.
Oh, good.
I'm a fan of you.
Because, you know, we're doing this together, so.
We are.
All right. Well, anything else you want to add? No. I feel like we talked about everything we wanted to. We discussed it all.
All I want to say is I hope that the craft video doesn't come out because I ain't trying to see that.
John, if it comes out, you don't have to see it. It's so crazy. Like you just don't.
No,
look
you know
at it.
You have to.
No, you don't.
Because of the way that our world works.
No, it's not an injury that you cannot not look at.
Everybody's gonna watch that video when it comes out. You know, it's gonna be like the talk of every office. They'll be like, "Did you see that craft video?
Did you watch the Kim Kardashian video?
Which one? Oh, oh, which one? So you mean with Ray J?
Yes.
Oh yeah, but at the time it was the Ray J video, wasn't it?
Well, you're right. It was the Ray J video. All right. So all you want is for Robert Kraft's video to not come out.
Basically.
All I want is for the Clippers to get to the second round of the playoffs.
Ugh.
That's what I want.
I think my dream might be more of a reality.
Thank you.
Well, it just depends on who you guys are playing, but it's not going to be an easy road for the Clips.
I know, but I have faith in them. So we'll see what happens. All right, everybody. This is it for us here at Double Overtime. Right?
Yeah.
We hope you
that.
Double Overtime. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us across social media at LATV Network. Tweet us, like us, follow us. Follow us. You can follow John. John, where can they follow you?
On Instagram at John024Durnell. You can also follow me on Facebook as well as Twitter. On Twitter, you can find me at Twitterless John.
Why you gotta complicate things?
Because it's funny.
Okay. You can find me across social media at Monse Bolanos. You see how easy that was?
That is
across
easy.
Social media.
Yeah. Well, this is something that stems back from when I was doing comedy. That's why I have that Twitterless John one.
Oh, so you thought it was funny?
Well, someone tagged me as Twitterless John because I didn't have Twitter at the time.
And so you thought that was funny?
I did.
No, it's not. Thank you so much for joining us here in Double Overtime. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.